Ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to begin, please be seated. A very good morning, half a day, and Tiruwami to all of you. It is a pleasure to be co-MCs for this week's conference. I am Jonas Barcinas,
And I'm Jacqueline Che.
and on behalf of the Planning Committee, we are pleased to welcome all of you to Saipan and to Saipan Southern High School. We appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules and fly hundreds, thousands of miles to join us on the island of Saipan. We have a few housekeeping notes to make before we begin today's program. First, kindly switch your mobile cell phones to silent mode to avoid interruptions. You can find a map on the campus in your program booklet. If you have any question, please feel free to ask any committee member in blue or visit the registration table, which will serve as a one-stop shop for all your questions.
Thank you, Jonas. I would now like to call upon Ms. Leila Staffler and Mr. Felix Rebelliman to sing the U.S. National Anthem and the Sinamay Anthems. Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Italugyalam tasi nagagitanohu atuna sempril saga malago sa undi abay huhanaw by fatu hatadu tisinya how undingu otano mid beses and mas who saluda how God but nights last Marianas utuna mid beses and mas who saluda how God but nights last Marianas utuna ngay pancephality esemwe bwe ibweliti bwe falawe sangras fabua ai tidong elu ninga chuta felu Marianas ai muereti sangras fabua ai tidong elu linga chuta felu Marianas ai
You may all be seated. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Felix and Miss Layla, for singing that beautiful anthem. As we all know, we are celebrating 40th year of our Pacific Circle Consortium. Of course, this year's theme is navigating global trends of education within the Pacific region. As we all mentioned earlier, we have several visitors from North Island. About 17 total islands, nations, and states are represented today. So this time, as we call on your islands, island, nation, state, please stand up to be recognized. From Tinian and Rhoda. Let's give them a big round of applause, flying, despite the connectivity, airline connectivity, they're still able to be here. Guam. Japan. Yes, that's you in the front. South Korea. There you go. Australia. Wow, the Aussies. Taiwan. New Zealand. Palau, the Republic of Palau. Fiji. U.S. Oregon. Oregon. Texas. Hawaii. North Carolina. Minnesota. Washington. NMC. PSS. Welcome everyone to Saipan. These folks spent the 4th of July here in Saipan, and some of you that did, okay, hopefully you have a taste of the Marianas. And some are able to witness our Liberation Parade yesterday. I'm glad that it didn't rain. So let's give everyone a big round of applause for joining us celebrate our liberation. Can we give them all a big round of applause? And now I'd like to call upon Miss Jackie to introduce someone very special.
All right, welcome. We would also like to recognize members on stage for joining us today. We have here Dr. Xiaolan Dong from Taiwan. We have our interim president for NMC, Dave Atau. Our NMC board chairman, Frank Rebalaman. Chairman for the Public School System Board of Education, Herman Guerrero. President of Palau Community College, Dr. Patrick Tilley. And of course, our Public School System Commissioner, Dr. Rita Sablan.
For the Pacific Circle Consortium Chair-elect Alexis Citane. Sitani. Secretary Marcia Rowan and Treasurer Lori Ward. PCC members Dr. Rosalind Carroll, Laura Elena Ortiz Camargo, Neusila Natua Etenuati. Did I sound that right? Okay. Dr. Jennifer Curtis, Mrs. Manutai Leo Pepe, Dr. Masahi Urabe, and PCC Secretary Dr. Tan Truc Nguyen. And to begin this program, I invite PCC past chair Dr. Xiaolawan Dung for the opening remarks.
Good morning, Joanne, distinguished guests, and PCC members and friends. I, as the past chair of the PCC, am here to represent Quintantia to deliver a welcoming message for her. She couldn't make it this year because of her daughter's health condition. So I'm here to read a welcoming message for her. I hope you understand my English, and I truly hope that I could read it in Mandarin. Dear members and friends of the Pacific Circle Consortium, Hafadai Nisapula Vinaka Talofa Lava Kia Lakiaola, and warm Pacific greeting to you all. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Pacific Circle Consortium Executive Committee to the 40th Annual Conference. The 40th Pacific Circle Consortium Conference, Navigating Global Trends of Education within the Pacific region, is a milestone event for the organization. 2016 is a year in which we celebrate 4 decades of dedicated effort toward the promotion of international and intercultural understanding and cooperation among the peoples and countries in and around the Pacific Ocean. This is also the first conference to be hosted in the Northern Pacific region. We thank the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Island Public School System, Northern Mariana College, and RTI International, and everyone in the CNMI for their hospitality in welcoming us to their shows and for the commitment to ensuring a memorable conference experience in one of the most beautiful parts of the Pacific region. The conference theme of curriculum, instruction, method, model, and series, learning and outcome standard, assessment, teacher education, indigenous education, workforce development, college readiness, and the marginalized student, for example, special education, and sanity and language, provide a wide scope for intercultural, intellectual scholarly debate and deliberation. Given the diversity of our membership, the ensuring rich dialogue characteristic of the PCC community gathering will be prompted by presentation from across the Pacific region, including Palau, Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Mexico, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, the CNMI, and the United States of America. We are committed to increasing network and collaborative research and professional activity and programs which foster partnership among our membership, and we encourage participants to seek out, engage with existing and new PCC working group and project. We invite you all to attend the PCC annual membership meeting for a discussion about the future of PCC and upcoming meeting venue. We look forward to a week of thoughtful reflection and the growing of new and the strengthening of existing collaboration within the PCC family network. Vinaka Vakalavu, thank you very much, and warmest regard, Krisansha Goya, Vaka Uta. 谢谢。
Thank you again, Dr. Xiu Longdong. And now, the moment we have been waiting for, the Neil Baumgart Lecture. The Neil Baumgart Lecture is named in memory of Professor Emeritus Neil Baumgart, former chair of the Pacific Consortium, PCC, and distinguished educator, scholar, and mentor. The highly anticipated lecture is presented at PCC's annual conferences. We are very honored this year because the Neil Baumgart Lecture will be presented by someone who has been a trailblazer, especially in the advancement of post-secondary education in Micronesia. Having served as president of Palau Community College since 1999, Dr. Patrick Tilley is no stranger to the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. He also served as CNMI PSS Associate Commissioner for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. And prior to that, he worked as Vocational Educational Coordination for the CNMI Public School System. Dr. Tilley is also served as a delegate to the Palau Second Constitutional Convention and also worked to heighten the quality of post-secondary education in the region through his role as a commissioner for the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, one of 7 regional accrediting commissions authorized by the U.S. Department of Education. The title of this year's Neil Baumgart Lecture, presented by Dr. Tilley, is Sustainable Development Goals. The whole world knows. What about us? Please welcome to the podium Dr. Patrick Tilley.
Chairman Guerrero.
At this time, we'd like to call upon Ms. Lucrecia Bora, one of the organizers, and Ms. Charlotte Cepeda to present something very special also. Tilley, Dr. Tilley. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you very much, Jonas, for that nice introduction. And good morning, everyone. At the outset, I'd like to pay tribute to all Commonwealth leaders at all levels of the community. I would also like to thank the Commonwealth's community, especially the residents of Saipan, for assisting Palau Community College and the Micronesian Voyaging Society in wayfinders and student navigators and Alinganyo Maisu in their voyage from Palau through the islands of Yap FSM to Saipan and to Guam for the recently concluded Festival of Pacific Arts. The support rendered to us when tragedy struck a few hours before the canoe welcoming ceremony will remain in our hearts forever. I'm sure you will hear more about the voyage and voyaging and wayfinding, but I'm also very saddened to let you know that the navigator Cesario Seuralur and all the people on board the Maisu are 4-day sails away from Palau. They will be there on or around Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That's the nature of navigation. Let me also say that earlier this year, Palau was confronted by an extremely severe drought. The lives of people were affected as a result of water rationing, but we were comforted by the kind words that kind words from the CNMI leadership, as well as help from the CNMI community. And for that, we are grateful. I'd like to begin by saying good morning. And I bring greetings from Palau and the other PCC, Palau Community College. I also want to say Hafade, Tiro, Nisa Bula Binaga, Talofalava, Ia Ora, Aloha, Yagwe, Mogadin, Ali, Kaselelia, Rananim, Weni Mani Toige, Lotumwo, Ohayo Gozaimasu, Mabuhay, Malo Lele, Apinam Yustap Good, Shalom, Yoboseo, Nihao, Bonjourno, Salamat Tatung, Guten Tag, and good day. When PCC was created, consider some of the things that were happening when PCC was created. Not our PCC, but the Pacific Circle. President Obama and I were in high school. Not in the same high school. He went to Punaho, I went to Vincenti High School. When you wanted things, you ordered from Sears Roebuck. Some of the people here might not know. There was no PCC, Palau Community College. There was no NMC. There was a School of Nursing. There was no COMFSM. There was Community College of Micronesia. There was no LENCRAN for NMC, American Samoa, all of us. None of those existed. GMOs were nothing but a dream, genetically modified organism. Over half of everything we have at the stores are GMOs. And maybe some people here will say something about it. And artificial intelligence is a reality. 1977, when PCC was created, there was no GPS. In fact, the DOD had just made public a technology they've been working on for 10 years. It's 1977. Computers was Apple IIe. They debuted in 1977. The biggest means of communication was a CB radio, citizen band radio, and then HF, and then SSP, single sideband radio. I mention that because the digital divide is still found along those lines. Here in Micronesia, we go from one extreme to the next. We're trying to communicate with MISU and single sideband, CB radio, and high frequency radio. Those are still realities today. Back then, we were implored, or people like Richard were implored not to give us fish, but to teach people how to fish. We're still singing the same message. Do not give us fish fillet. Teach us the techniques of fishing. Right, Richard? It is, as mentioned, my first time to be back in the CNMI since the island of Saipan was visited by Super Typhoon Soudelure. And I hope the children in geography and social studies have actually researched the name Soudelure and what it means in Ponapean language, what it stands for, and who were Soudelures. Maybe a joint typhoon warning center should probably heed the lessons of the past and worry about renaming the storms. It is amazing. The place, I was telling someone this morning that from San Vicente, I can look behind the church all the way up to the hills. Homes and residences, I was never able to see in the 8.5 years I was here. I stood there and I can see almost everything. Your recovery has been remarkable. And this is an example of very resilient community. A community that comes together in the face of common threat and enemy and tackles issues until there is a sense of normalcy. You are to be commended for a job well done. And as we saw yesterday, the 4th of July here, It was an amazing work, community work, putting everything together for that wonderful parade. How would it be so nice if we can rally together, put the same effort for the education of our children in this great Commonwealth and the region? The last time I was here was 2013. Don't worry about the stack of notes here. I will just go to about half of them, and then we'll, if I start seeing people doing other things, I'll probably cut it short. I was here when, 2013, I think that's when you last hosted a PEC conference. And I have to make a confession. PEC used to be an annual event. And you're looking at someone who worked really hard writing letters to the PREL Board of Directors asking that the PEC conference can be held every other year, every 2 years, so that during the off year we can use that year to focus on student teaching and development, things that we learn after we assess students and they tell us this is probably what you might be able to do to help your kids. But we didn't have the time because every summer we were going to plan to go to PEC conferences. And not only that, but the resources that we could have used at one point in time were used to send people to attend this conference. It took a long while, but I finally made the decision to be having this conference every other year. CNMI is no strange community to me because it's like home to me. I'd also like to thank the CNMI Public School System, the board chair, Sablan, and Commissioner, board chair Aboliman, and interim president David Atao for the invitation to attend this conference. Richard had asked me if I can do this without knowing who the man this lecture is named after. I quickly said yes. But it's like one of those things where you really cannot turn down after you have accepted the invitation to speak. Because the letter actually stated that the person needed to meet certain criteria in order to deliver this lecture. And I asked myself, what did I get myself into? But I'm going to try my best, and then I will spend some time talking about the sustainable development goals when I get through these salutations and my thoughts about what's happening here. While some of you or many of you may know him well, this is the person whom the lecture is named after. I didn't know who he was. He's an honorable and distinguished gentleman. I really didn't know who he was. But allow me to read some of the excerpts of what the newspaper said about him. Neil Baumgart was one of Australia's leading contributors to the improvement of education in developing countries, that's including Palau, especially in the Pacific region, where he developed and evaluated education policies and programs. At home, this is in Australia, he worked through the university, such as Australian College of Education. He won the Melville Medal in 1955. He became a senior master in Brisbane Boys Grammar School, and he worked at the University of Queensland. He attended University of Queensland where he obtained his master's degree. Then he worked at Macquarie University in Sydney where he earned his PhD. Then he moved to the Philippines where he worked for the Ford Foundation. He moved to Samoa, formerly Western Samoa, as a consultant for Australian government program. He spent 35 years, took part in more than 70 overseas consultancy. Now this is a man that I really should have known. He worked for World Bank, USAID, Asian Development Bank, British Department of International Bank, Government of Laos, Cambodia, Maldives, and he even worked for Australia-Korean Foundation, an organization for economic cooperation and development, an organization that helped give rise to PCC. Baumgart became associate professor at Macquarie in 1980. He was bestowed the Order of Australia in 2004. I have no doubt that we, who are gathered here for the 48th sitting of PCC, are committed like Neil Baumgart. As part of this planning, as part of the planning for this conference, the organizing committee reached out to the leaders of this great Commonwealth and of PCC, and this is what each and every one of them said about this conference, their commitment to education. Their words are enshrined for posterity's sake, because you have the book and it's there in the cloud somewhere. Let me begin by quoting that since 1977, the conference has brought together educators, policymakers from all over to share ideas and promote intercultural understanding and cooperation among countries of our region. We face an ever-changing modern society. It is paramount that we come together and bring fresh concepts to the table to share with each other. They're not here, but I'm sure they mean well, and they mean what they said. Governor Torres, Lieutenant Governor Victor Hogo. Let me also quote, PCC has played an important role in bringing educational leaders together and facilitating exchange of ideas, research tools, and resources to enhance education throughout the Pacific communities. As this year's program topics theme, navigating global trends of education within the Pacific region, suggests a rapidly changing world poses for new challenges and opportunities for Pacific educators and students. This is what your good Congressman Gilili Sablan said. And last night I saw him on TV and he said, I hope within my lifetime, this community, and I said, wow, is he going to say the word? An independent Sienna mine, he said, and this community will elect the President of the United States. Okay, Congressman. That was Congressman Sablan. Another one goes like this. As inhabitants of Asia Pacific region, thank you for hosting this conference in the Pacific and North Pacific. We have faced a raft of natural disasters, struggled with high cost of essential commodities, witnessed the detrimental effects of global warming, and echo our sentiments for quality and advancement of our education system. However, despite the many natural or human-caused scenarios designed to break us down, our passion for educating our children overpowers all negative aspects in the world, which is evident by your presence here today. This is from the President of the Senate, Borja. 40 years of fostering intercultural understanding and cooperation, this remarkable feat reflects hard work, sacrifice, and significant financial commitment, as we are reminded of a quote by Erasmus: when I have little money, I buy books. If any is left over, I buy food and clothes. Like the scholars, researchers, administrators, and policymakers gathering for this PCC, we value education and we honor your commitment to improve the quality of education in our respective schools and institutions of higher learning. This from the House Speaker Rafael Tamapan. And one that can be found in ancient universities. The words are so profound. The constant search for growth, development, and guidance has never stopped people from all corners of the world from coming together to share experiences, visions, paradigms, cutting-edge discoveries, and development in technology, human resources, education, and so many other things. Our inherent inquisitiveness that we are, we unconsciously sense a duty to make known to others what we know, what we think, what we believe, what we observe, what we learn, what we want. This is sometimes complex process of association. We seek feedback, assurance, support, agreement, and criticism. Although some of us fear the faintest of criticism. Your work here at the 48th Annual Pacific Circle Consortium is here for today's needs and demands that are meant to fill the gaps of yesterday's puzzle, at the same time as a stepping stone to next year's. Good luck, and we hope that your presence here will be a model for others to aspire to do what you are doing. This is from the great Mayor of Saipan, David Apatan. not to be outdone. We welcome the participant that consists of researchers, practitioners, experts from educational institutions in both the public and private sectors, including various stakeholders who are vested in improving the education of our children. This from these two people, Dr. Soblan and Chairman Herman T. Guerrero. And finally, we are extremely honored to have partnered with CNMI Public School System, RTI International to host this momentous gathering of educational leaders and visionaries from all across the Pacific. We have no doubt that the presentations, discussions, and networking that will take place over the next few days will contribute to the advancement of educational research and development in our region. As such, we look forward to meeting all of you individually and are eagerly anticipating the opportunity to engage in an exciting exchange of ideas. Chairman Rabauliman and Interim President Soblan. So as you can see from what I've read from the cross-section of CNMI leaders, there is no doubt that education is number one in their priority. While I cannot speak for the CNMI, we can in fact change these names and put Palawan leaders in those shoes. None of them are in the room, so I can say that. But it has been easier said than done. Funding education has been tough. In my own little way, I've been watching and doing a craft for CNMI's budget for the public school system, as well as ours for the Ministry of Our Education, Northern Marianas College, and Palau Community College. Sometimes it's tougher because sometimes the oath of office, and somebody has got to learn this. When someone takes an oath in office, I'm a firm believer that when you didn't know something and get elected, when you raise your hand, even if it left hand is on the Bible and take an oath, it doesn't make you all knowing. It just tells us that more people were convinced by your ideas before the election. But you have to deliver. Elaine can attest to this. The Sustainable Development Goals, I think I'm going to use that. These are not something new. At this juncture, I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts on United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, commonly referred to as SDGs. I'd like to think that the whole world knows about them, and what about us? And let me qualify that the us in that question is really us in the Northern Pacific, us formerly associated with the United States or currently associated with the United States, whether as a territory or a freely associated state. So I ask indulgence for those of you from the independent Pacific because you know this already by heart and are already working on them. The Sustainable Development Goals are a new set of goals the United Nations is working on for the next 15 years. They replace the Millennium Development Goals that became effective in the year 2000 and ended in 2015. What were the Millennium Development Goals? The Millennium Development Goals were developed out of commitments set forth in the Millennium Declaration signed in September 2000. There were 8 goals with 21 targets and a series of measurable indicators. The first goal of the United Nations and the whole world was eradicate poverty and hunger. And this is defined as the people who live on $1.25 a day. That's US dollars. That was the first goal. Much was done and much left to be done. This is something that in the United States, there's so many different programs addressing these issues. Aid to families with dependent children, and the list goes on and on, so I should not be spending that because you know most of this. In many other countries, those assistance do not exist. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it. The second Millennium Development Goals that ended in 2015 was to achieve universal primary education. Here in the CNMI, we take it for granted. We're talking about the degree of effectiveness because education is almost universal. In other parts of the world, people actually fight every day just to have a place so that they can learn. Those of you have heard about Malala Yousafzai, who won the Nobel Prize, the struggles she had, the blocking she did, cut, that led to her being shot through the head, and she's never stopped. The movie, I mean, you can see the whole thing. It's all about access. They're still working about access. So here in the CNMI and other U.S. affiliated countries, territories, we're very fortunate because education, primary education, is almost universal. In fact, it's against the law for someone to keep their child out of school. The third of the Millennium Development Goals was to promote gender equality and empowerment of women. Promote gender equality and empowerment for women. I wish I can say that that's not happening in our part of the world, but it is. And that's something that we need to work on. This is elimination of gender disparity in primary and secondary education. Here in the CNMI, it's a non-issue. If you have the ability, you can have the job, as you can attest to Board of Regents, Commissioner, and so many people in leadership roles. The goal number 4 for the world is reduce child mortality rates, a non-issue for the CNMI. Goal number 5 is improving maternal health. Again, there are minor issues in the CNMI, but this was a great issue for the rest of the world. Goal number 6 was HIV/AIDS, combating HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. Some of the diseases are non-existent on this side of the world, but then there are countries in the world where this is really still an issue. Goal number 7 was to ensure environmental sustainability. It was this goal number 7 that led to the creation of the Micronesian Challenge, the Shark Sanctuary, the Pan Fund, the MPAs, and the IUU fishing. Micronesian Challenge, CNMI is part of Micronesian Challenge, the Shark Sanctuary, Marshall Island FSM and Palau Sanctuary, Guam, I think, Protected Areas Network Fund, Marine Protected Areas, and IUU fishing, which is illegal, unregulated, underreported fishing, which is half of the world's fishing. Finally, goal number 8 was to develop a global partnership for development. Good governance was not good enough. We need to make sure that the least developed countries should be receiving the support and help. You know why we need to do this? Because we are one island, we are one planet. We have much to learn, and they have much to learn. 15 years, 2000 to 2015, came and went. While much was accomplished, so much work was still left to be done. And this led to the development of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals have 169 associated targets, which have their own United Nations indicators. In order to implement the SDGs at the national level, it is necessary to align them with each country's existing national priorities and initiatives. This technology was not in existence. We were 1977 when PCC was created. We were just the biggest invention back then was a whiteboard. And then about a few years later, they invaded the overhead projector. And somebody came to one of the PEC conferences and then had a leaflet where they can flip over the slides. Man, I went to those conferences not for the content, but for the technology they used to share the contents. So things have changed. Oh, let me just say some of the things that were not telex was the thing then. Fax machines. Think about the side of the road. Wood trimmer, print machines, as we know them on this side of the world, were not invented until 1984. Just think about that. Think of trimming along the road and clearing your land without that print machine. We take that for granted. Wish we can say that about education. Math was the thing of the past. Let me show you one event. When Palau was hosting the Uyghurs, Uyghurs are these prisoners that yours truly went to get in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And we worked really hard to educate them, and then eventually their families joined them. The number went to 18, and then we finally have relocated them at the request of President Obama to the countries of their choice. We were able to, I can say that now, we were able to buy the passport through those means you find, and then fly them and settle them in the country of their choice. But one really interesting is a brother and sister went to elementary school in Palau, George P. Harris. They were 11 and 12. So I asked them one day, how's school? Of course, the sister is not supposed to respond, so the brother had to respond. Oh, it's really nice. They're teaching us Palawan and mischievousness. And I said, what is it? Mischievousness. I said, what is that? And by the time he spelled it, I understood that the Palawan kids were trying to convert them to our way of doing things in this side of the world. But there's one thing he said about math. He said, I'm surprised that in that 4th and 5th grade, they're doing arithmetic. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, because that's what you do at home in Tajikistan. The mom is from Tajikistan. He said, you don't do mathematics and arithmetic in elementary school? I said, no, we do that at home. You go to school and you do this coding, and then you do algebra 1 in 1st grade. So I looked at their assessment, and it speaks to that. So something about education system in that part of the world. This is just anecdotal evidence, but something about that. So let me start by running through these things. There's 17 sustainable development goals. Okay. They are, okay, I guess this. There's 17 for the world's future through 2030. They're backed by 169 targets, negotiated over a 2-year period, agreed to by all nations on September 25th, 2015. So what's different about this? First and foremost, these goals apply to every nation, every sector, cities, businesses, schools, and organizations, and all are challenged to act. And this is, as you will read in the UN and everywhere around the world, universality. Second, it is recognized that the goals are all interconnected in a system. We cannot aim to achieve just one goal. We must achieve them all. And this is called the integration, something that's very common on this side of the world. 6, and finally, it is widely recognized that achieving these goals involve making very big fundamental changes in how we live on Earth. And this is called the transformation. So we'll take a tour. If you will notice, ending poverty in all forms, everywhere, is still the number one goal. And that is to eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day. I will not read all the targets, but I will be able to share with everyone who's interested. Second is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable architecture. How many of you have seen the TV show Naked and Afraid? Not many people probably have seen that. Imagine living in a community where you wake up every day and you're trying to find where is your next meal going to come from. Going to be a game? Is going to be worms? Is it going to be? There are parts of the world where that is really an issue. If we're in a community where people are hungry and being stunted, their growth is limited, definitely we cannot talk about universal education because their priority is in eating. In Solomon Islands, they're going back to custom garden. Custom is spelled Kassom. Custom. And they're trying to bring back their young people to work on the land. Because they've realized that we cannot educate everyone. If you're from Maleta, you educate them to the point where the skill sets they have is for them to get a job in Honiara. And they're defeating the whole purpose of educating the Malaytans in Solomon Islands. To ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. I chose this picture because for Palauans and some of those in the room, there is a tendency to think in Palau that these taro patches, and we still have many of these, were actually work of women. I have news for all these people. The reason why they had all these taro patches in the past was the men were involved and they were helping to clean them, till the soil, and then to plant them. So indirectly, it's all interrelated. They didn't need to use birth control back then, if I may slide that in, because they were so tired from working in the field. That in itself is a deterrent. People don't know how hard it is to work on a taro patch, so they didn't get it. Sustainable goal number 4. Kind of have the slide over there, but it's ensured inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. I guess this is where all of us are here. And that's one of the 17 sustainable development goals that's focused on education and lifelong learning. The picture you see over there is formerly a Tian F. Kennedy Elementary School, now at Japan Palau Friendship Elementary School on the island of Kayangal. And it was a nice day. They had, that's a student body. Really, that's the student body of the school. That's their whole school. And those. Yeah. Anybody from Kayangal, my apologies. Yeah, they actually have a student body of 12. So that might be 2, 4, 5. That's about 50%. So one of the targets for this education for all is ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education. We take it for granted, but places like in Afghanistan, that's not a reality. Girls are not encouraged to go to school. In fact, they are deterrent. So unless they get that place in order, it'll be very difficult to achieve that. At least here, it's available for everyone. There's a presentation during this week. I would highly encourage people to go and take a look. I think gentleman from Japan is making the presentation. It's about the German school model, something that I've studied many years. I've always wondered, would that have helped? Would that help in our communities? 3 schools, 3 years of early childhood education, 6 years of elementary education school, and then you get to choose the 3 curriculum, up school, gymnasium, and the whole work. 9 years. There's a system for those who have aptitude, so they can learn hard work skills, so that they can make a living, carpentry, automotive, those kind. And then they have the other school training people for white collar jobs, banking, investment, those kind of stuff. We're in a system where it one shoe for all. And I'm always wondered whether that's a model that should be best for us. In Micronesia, there was an experiment. The Jesuits of Micronesia established a school. They created a school, so if you take the test and the top tier of that test, you go to Xavier High School in Chuk, still there. Harvard leaders of Micronesia still come from that school. And then from the top tier or the second tier, they go to Patch High School in Ponape that have since been closed. An idea behind that is we need to have the people who will lead and develop this place politically, socially, and then we have Patch educating the engineers and the future builders for the community. That is non-existent. I can also share with you a model that was established, developed here in the CNMI, which is the Career Academy model, and adopted by Palau High School, and they just finished the 16th year of career academies in Palau High School. They came to the CNMI and learned, and then went back and then required that every student going to a secondary school in Palau must have a major. So if you go to Palau High School graduation in the last 16 years, there are students in humanities, in health careers, in construction. So they graduate and they can actually have a job above, beyond the minimum wage. Some people are questioning whether that was the right thing to do, and people need to assess that. I want to run out of time, so achieve gender equality, empowerment for women. Some of you are friends with her. I changed a picture to put her because she had just become Palau's ambassador to Food and Agriculture Organization. In addition to her many portfolios, she's Palau's ambassador to European Union, and now Palau's ambassador to climate change, and another portfolio was given to her, Palau's ambassador to Food and Agriculture Organization, where the issues of genetically modified organisms are big issues in the world, in this island called planet Earth. Picture is worth 1,000 words. That's Palau's water system in May 1st. Water used to be up there. You know where the people are? That's the dam. The water is supposed, it's up there right now. But at that point, it's a panic in the community because we had not planned, we had not prepared. National Emergency Committee was called. We were there, we were sitting, we made plans and everything. As soon as the rain returned, there goes the planning out the window until the next drought or until the next election. But water is very important. Availability and sustainable management of water. Because in some places, in some countries, the water come across borders. So there are issues and goals that need to be met because in island communities, we have a different system than the water for the state of Israel, than the waters for Palestinian refugee camps, than the water for the European countries. They're different. This one, ensure access for reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. This is the sad part, is that we know, apologies to our Australian friends, but in the last 30 days, the largest coal purchase contract was signed by Australia, $60 billion to sell coal in the face of renewable energy. Well, that's a national policy of that country. So if you can see in those targets, they said we need to be respectful of those. But if you procure that much, people will burn that much, they will deposit that much to the global, contribute to the global warming. And when there's global warming, the island communities in the Pacific will suffer, and then no money available on this planet will be able to replace those. We have to thank Southern High School. I walk right through here. So generating plant, I think outside here. I hope you're getting enough from CUC. It's a huge thing in Palau. Our National Congress generates 25% of their power. The Ministry of Health, about 20% generate their power. Our international airport, about 35% of their power is being generated by renewable energy. Because the goal is that by 2030, at least this is the goal for Palau, 40% of our energy has to be generated by alternative source of energy as our contribution to this island community we call planet Earth. Promote, sustain, and inclusive sustainable economic growth, not an issue here in the CNMI, but you know we need to, if you look at those targets, maybe someone needs to, in social sciences in the school system at the college, should look at those targets and see how they fit to the CNMI. How will casino meet the needs of the CNMI? I was here at the height of the garment industry, and very few people study the impact. While the garment was high over here, there was a WTO negotiation. Bases are being closed at Lark and Subic Bay. No one put those numbers together. I think that's something that we need to have, at least for me. I'm thinking that there has to be like a think tank. People that need to sit back and think they're outside the purview of the whims of politics. It has to be about the fray. So they would not get involved with the politicians. Politicians, by the way, are really good people. They get things moving. Resilient infrastructure is the next one. To build resilient infrastructure and promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. There's some, I will say something about what happened in the FSM. Captive insurance, just to make it short, captive insurance are meant to address those top 50 Japanese companies that need to park their incomes elsewhere. They still pay taxes in Japan, but they have places where they park some of their income, so when there's a windfall, they can pay back to help those countries, and at the same time still continue to pay the taxes back to where Palau didn't adopt it. FSM did adopt that, and to make the long story short, their shares with Alibaba, when they had an IPO at the Wall Street, they made billions of dollars, and in return, FSM made a lot of money in the millions, and they were able to put money back to their trust fund for 2020. Kind of make that. That's how interrelated the world. Captive insurance in FSM, Alibaba in China, Wall Street in the US, YAP and Gosrai benefits. That's how integrated the world is. But those are some things what the US, CNMI is a US Commonwealth. There are a lot of opportunities for those. And that's for politicians and economic leaders to address. But you know why I'm saying that? Because it should not be a purview of politicians and economists. It has, the school system needs to be involved in that. Reduce inequality within and among countries. There are many poor people around the world. So when you're here and you're other places in the North Pacific and you think we're poor, there's so many people out there who have so little. You know why Duterte was elected? Because he told the people that he will deliver for them. That's what he said, and he got elected. And we're very happy. I'm not saying I was very happy for Duterte, but I think at least the people's voices was heard. The next one is to make cities and human settlement inclusive, safe, and resilient and sustainable. It's hard for you to see if you live here. Messiah naman. So take it from me, you consider this place home. When you turn in that intersection, just before Microl, and you drive all the way to CHC, left and right, that's a different scene from 1998. And hopefully, if someone would play that, there was a video that was done by MCB earlier when they first finished the middle road, something that people needs to see and see it how it is right now. It's to be some sort of zoning and master planning. I mean, if you have an abandoned building, it needs to be painted. That's just my own piece on this. So they're creating an eyesore for this community. And it's hard to see when you're inside. You need to see it from coming back. Go right past that because I'm not bordering politics here. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Some people have so much, some people have so little. And sometimes we don't understand. You make Toyota in Japan to sell in the US, and you make Ford in the US to sell in Japan. And a student once asked me, why don't they just make them and sell them? That's a very hard thing to explain to the kids. Why do you make in one place and sell to the others? Why do they make those vehicles there and then back? 13th one. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. And this is real. This is not about the weather. Sometimes, well, oh, the weather is changing because of climate change. You know, weather changes from Monday to Friday. Climate change takes decades, centuries, and millenniums. So that's why the world leaders had to meet in Paris, France. It was really difficult for the world to agree to reduce the warming to less than 2%. It was very hard, very hard. It was very hard for people to agree. Maybe you don't take it seriously, but it was really hard. People cried over that. Otherwise, some places in the planet will cease to be habitable. In 4 years, Kiribati will not be habitable. I don't think it's fair for them if they didn't have anything to do with this sea level rise. But I think I'm very happy that these 13 Sustainable Development Goals is a Micronesian contribution to this. The leaders of small island states, SIS, not to be confused with ISIS, it's SIS, Small Island Development States. They got together, adopted a resolution. It went to SIDS, Small Islands Developing States. And from there, it went to the Forum countries, and then from the Forum to the United Nations, and it was included in that. You know why it was very difficult? Because part of these 13 Sustainable Development Goals, the developed economies are now required to put in the climate fund, and they're required to put in $100 billion. This is what, if you've heard it about Green Climate Change Fund, okay, this is the money that you will get. So from curriculum to developing everything in the school system will come from this fund. Sustainable Goal number 13. Another contribution from our side of the world is conserve and sustainably use the oceans and seas and marine resources for sustainable development. Not to be partisan here, because we need to remain neutral. But I think we need to have to give credit to the President of Palau, His Excellency Tamir Mangsao, for really championing this one thing. His presidency expects that Palau's environment is its economy. If we lose our environment, we will not have the economy. And that's very true. If we lose the economy that we have, if we have a degraded community, then those tourists will not come to Palau and pay those money. The good news for you is Palau's National Congress on Tuesday just passed the law to amend the visa of $150. So it will not be effective October 1st. It will be effective next year in April. So if you want to visit Palau and take advantage of a cheap $50 fee going out, now is the time to visit. Should get some point for the Visitors Bureau for this. Number 15. Protect and restore sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. Sustainably manage forests and halt and reverse the land degradation for biodiversity loss. You know, we hear about this. So those of you who've been to Guam or from Guam, there are two things that are happening in Guam. There's the vine that's killing every vegetation in Guam, and there's a rhinoceros beetle that's killing all the coconut trees in Guam. It creates, just hosting the FESPAC, it created a lot of problems because many Pacific countries needed coconut leaves. They needed to bring from Tinian. And when they bring from Tinian, Guam Agriculture and Quarantine held them at the port and would not allow in because they're worried that it might bring some pests from Tinian. And I'm like, pests from Tinian? It's probably the most pristine of all the Marianas Islands. Look at your coconut trees. Anyway, they were able to, sanity prevailed, and they were able to unload the coconut, and the festival went very well. And contrary to reports, they had a lot of water and nobody was dehydrated in Guam. Promote peaceful, one more to go. Promote peaceful societies for sustainable development. Provide access for justice for all to build an effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. When you watch the news in the last few days, regardless of your position on the Brexit, whether they voted to leave or to stay, that's not my point. The point is that when you have an institutions in place, whether they vote to leave EU or stay in the EU, the government continues business as usual. That's the level that we want to achieve. Our communities, as we all know, if you're denying this, you might be not be truthful to yourself. When an election is over, people are not safe in their position. They're looking over their shoulders. It should never be like that. We need the maturity has to be at the level when there's a change at the top, everything is business as usual. Good thing we don't have missiles and nuclear tip arsenal. Imagine that. One election is over, as you're worried who's in charge of all the missiles and things we have, because we can. But we need to work really hard so that we'll be at the level that when there is change at the top, everything remains the same. And finally, strengthen the means and implementation and revitalize global partnership for sustainable development. We're all in this together. Whatever we do, we're in this together. There's no other place. Some people have said, maybe we can live here and go to the other planet. No, we cannot do that. This is our one and only place we find ourselves in. We need to make sure that those who have the least, some will be shared with them. Because it's given in our Judeo-Christian beliefs, at least for us, gentlemen from Asia, we believe that the golden rule is what's found in the book. It's not one that's practiced in many other countries. That those who have the gold make the rules. It shouldn't be like that. It has to be doing unto others what you want done unto you. I think that's what we are all here for. And we cannot be saying that for our own people. Let me use Palawan. You cannot say that about your own people and not have the same standard for Filipino and Bangladesh non-resident workers. I can guarantee that not one of them went to Dhaka or Manila and boarded a plane to Palau without an invitation. There was somebody in Palau who brought them. And just substitute Palau for your own countries. When they come to your shores, they expect and need to be treated the same like everybody else. Once you do that, I think we will be blessed. Sometimes that's what we're lacking. Some people have said we cannot mix at church and state. Yes, you can. In these communities, if we are going to be very led, we need to have people who are people of faith, to believe that not just for their own people, but for everyone else. I went through the many list of workshops that will be happening at this PCC, and I know I'll be here with a team from PCC because we're eager to learn. We want to learn from the CNMI, because I have been telling people that CNMI is once Micronesians were still dealing with the foreign or sovereign government, the people of the CNMI. See that beautiful anthem that we just sang? When PCC was created, the people of CNMI have planted the seed for a separate Commonwealth. They were very clear. They went to White Sands Hotel. You all know where the White Sands Hotel is? PIC. Well, they all met there and drafted the Constitution of the Federated States of Micronesia, signed by CNMI leaders. They did sign that, knowing full well that this will not be their constitution. But they went and helped their fellow brothers and sisters. Palawan signed, the Marshall Islands signed, everyone signed. But when they went back, the people of this great Commonwealth decided to establish a relationship in political union with the United States. And we see that they made that plan, they stuck to their guns, and this is a great Commonwealth that we have today. The people of the Marshalls and the people of Palau, on July 12, 1978, voted to separate and then left the Central Carolines. So just for geography, those who are doing the math, when Northern Mariana, when Saipan District left, Congress of Micronesia adopted a resolution that broke Kosrae away as a municipality of Pohnpei to become a district. It was easier for them to, this is a story that was told to me, we need to verify it. Said, how can we have a flag with 6 stars and only 5 districts? Let's adopt the resolution and make Kosrae a district. Then we don't have to change the flag. Kosraeans were very excited about that. But when the 2 other East and West broke away to become separate republics, the Federated States of Micronesia was born. And it is on that document, their preamble, that these famous words are found. The ocean does not separate us. It brings us together. And I think Asia Pacific region people and all the members of the PCC, not our PCC, but your PCC, we're eager to learn from you. But like I said, somewhere as part of this lecture, the lessons of the past has remained the same. Keeping of the fish is not sufficient enough, even if it's a fish fillet. It has to be the techniques and means and methods. So with that, thank you and good luck to all of you, and have a great summer, whatever is left of.
How about a big round of applause for Dr. Tele for that wonderful lecture. At this time, we would like to call upon the NMC Board of Regents and PS's Board of Education resolution to PCC Executive Committee. So can we have them please up front? Yeah.
We also have the other Board of Education members and Board of Regents up in the...
Okay, so at this time, before we give out the resolution to the PCC Executive Committee, we would like to present a very special plaque for Dr. Patrick Pillay.
Dr. Patrick Tilley, with great commendation and appreciation, this plaque is awarded to you for having presented the honorary Neil Baumgart Lecture today. So on behalf of the Pacific Circle Consortium, the Executive, and the Planning Committee, we extend our sincere gratitude for your words of wisdom this morning. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, and congratulations, Dr. Tilley. Yeah, and I believe we were informed to move up front, and we'll be presenting the State Board of Education and the NMC Board resolution. Can we move up front? Can we have also the Board of Regents from the Northern Mariners to please come on up and join us? Commission. Okay, the organization. Yeah. Okay. We need to choreograph this, but I'm sure we can make it. All right, the 14th State Board of Education, Resolution number 2016-001, Pacific Circle Consortium. Whereas a world-class public education is essential for the future success of our nation and today's school children, and whereas the Pacific Circle Consortium, PCC, was established in 1977 as initiative in international cooperation between educational research and development institutions in the Pacific region, initially drawn from Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD countries. And whereas Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, and U.S. mainland and Hawaii were represented at the first meeting, and whereas membership has since been extended to other countries from within this region and from Asia, and whereas the focus has also changed from one of collaboratively produced curriculum materials to broader issues of policy development and educational research. And whereas from hosting yearly workshops and meetings, the organization has moved to a single yearly conference at which joint projects are discussed and reported upon, and a range of papers and symposia are presented. And whereas the purpose of the PCC is to promote international and intercultural understanding and cooperation among the peoples and countries in and around the Pacific Ocean. And whereas the PCC fulfills this purpose through school-related international cooperative program and activities in the educational research, curriculum development, and professional development. And whereas the PCC shares ideas, resource, information, materials, and personnel among Pacific countries and institutions. And whereas the PCC is committed to principles of equity, and whereas the PCC celebrates its diversity of membership and culture by having its annual conference in a different member country each year. And whereas the PCC is now independent from the OECD and is headquartered at the University of Hawaii, 1776 University Avenue, CM130, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96822 USA. Now therefore, we're all aging.
Now therefore be it resolved that the CNMI State Board of Education commends Pacific Circle Consortium, an independent nonprofit corporation, for their 40 years of educational research and development, assistance and support, and significant contribution on ideas, resources, information, materials, and personnel among the Pacific countries and institution. Certify, we, the undersigned, hereby certify that the foregoing resolution was duly adopted by the 14th CNMI State Board of Education on March 29, 2016. Chairman.
And at this time, we would like to call upon Ms. Jackie to present the other resolution.
Hi, I'm not Ms. Jackie, but thank you. On behalf of our Board of Regents, our Chairman, Frank Reboliman, our Vice Chair, Elaine Arilla, our Regent Cindy Lilanguero, our past Regent Dr. Rehebe in the back. We'd like to resolution on behalf of the Northern Mariners College Board of Regents. A resolution to congratulate the Pacific Circle Consortium on its 40th annual conference and to support the collaboration between the Northern Mariners College, the CNMI Public School System, along with the Research Triangle Institute International in hosting this momentous event on Saipan. Whereas the Pacific Circle Consortium was established in 1977 and is an initiative in international cooperation between educational research and development institutions in the Pacific region, initially drawn from Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) countries. The consortium is now independent from the OECD, and whereas the PCC now draws members from Australia, New Zealand, several Pacific Islands, China, Hong Kong, SAR, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Taiwan, Thailand, Sri Lanka, several states of the United States, Vietnam, Canada, Latvia, and Mexico. Conference attendees have also come from Europe, the United Kingdom, Russia, Nepal, and Ecuador. Whereas the CNMI Public School System and the Northern Mariners College have partnered with Research Triangle Institute International to host the 40th Annual Pacific Circle Consortium Conference on Saipan. And whereas this will be the first time the Pacific Circle Consortium Conference will be held in Micronesia. And whereas this will also be the 40th anniversary of the conference, elevates the historical significance of the event even more. And whereas the theme of the 2016 conference will be navigating global trends of education within the Pacific region. Whereas hosting the 40th Annual Pacific Circle Consortium brings great honor not only for NMC and PASS, but for also the Commonwealth as a whole. And whereas bringing the 40th Annual Pacific Circle Conference to the island of Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands will also further strengthen the regional relationship that we have started and will give us the opportunity to expand our Pacific capacity with new professional relationships. And now, I'll give to my chairman.
I'm neither Jackie either. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Regents formally congratulates the Executive Committee and general members of the Pacific Circle Consortium on its 40th annual conference. It supports the Northern Marianas College's partnership with the public school system and Research Triangle Institute International in hosting this momentous event on Saipan, adopted by the Board of Regents on November 24th, 2015. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I know most of you want to get the program started, right? And some of you are probably very hungry. We have food in the back. But just a few final housekeeping before we head off in our separate ways for the breakout session. We are running a little bit behind schedule, so prior to going to your breakout sessions in the other two buildings back there, feel free to get some food in the back of the room, socialize, chit-chat maybe for like 5-10 minutes or less maybe, and then head on to your breakout sessions. For those interested in partaking in the island tour, who's interested? Raise up your hand. Awesome, it's a lot of people. Island tour will begin at 2:30. We will have a bus in the very back. The bus will arrive early. It'll be here by 2 o'clock, but the island tour starts at 2:30. So please, once your sessions end, please make your way to the parking lot where you'll see a big bus and hop on board, okay? The bus will drop you off at your hotels right after the island tour, and your shuttles will come at 5 p.m. to pick you up and drop you off to the welcome sunset dinner.
And also, Jackie, I believe PCC established discounts with name badges at selected location. Okay, look into your program. For a listing of business establishment, if you're planning on shopping there somewhere, make sure that you connect with them and let them know that you are part of the PCC so they can give you a very good discount. Not 50%, but I hope it's 10 or 20.
10%, 5%, 25% ranges.
And you're also invited to visit exhibits in room 2 and 3 at any point of the day when you're done with your workshop. So once again, on behalf of the committee, PCC committee, and the entire CNMI Public School System and NMC, we want to thank all of you for joining us, and please make your way back there for some great refreshments, and enjoy the day. Happy summer. Once again, we just remind everybody to please, if you're from different islands or country, this is the time to network, okay? So get to meet another new friend. Thank you.